Fáilte Harnash go dtí sreatha cúig de Comhrá Le Tomás I gcóir le EIRGRID, ag caint crack agus cad le íana speisialta gach seachtain. Buin súpas.
I remember saying to him, "This is some trip, Sean Murray. This is unbelievable." He says, "It's not a trip, Mugsy. It's a tour." And I was like, "No, but you know what I mean." He says, "No, I don't."
So proud there again, D&G. Who're there again, D&G. Dalshin Cabana. Yeah, to LNG anyway. Larry and Galvin anyway. That's the brand name anyway.
Tá an seo ag taithúibh an séasúr seo ag EIRGRID. Tá EIRGRID ag stúra angach leicteachas na héireann chuig todhchaí íseal chearbóin. We're back for episode 4 of season 5 of Comhrá Le Tomás in association with EIRGRID. Tá EIRGRID ina chófartaí brodúil den Cumanú Clascail ó 2015 agus an nocht tá brásás a bheith rá go bhfuil David Beggy iarlach cúnta na mí I Mahonta. David, you're very, very welcome, and thanks so much. I know you're after a long day coming on and having a chat. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to talk to you.
Same as that. Come here, David, before I start at all, and most of this chat is going to be obviously about the past and about the great days with that great Meath team that you played on. Do you follow the championship as it is at the moment? Or
I'm a bit weird. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm a little bit disillusioned by the current football. And it's a bit like in our day, blah, blah, blah. But and young people use mobile phones and we didn't have them. And life is different and football is different. And it's overcoached now and everything else. And it's everything that I wouldn't want to be involved in. I like looking at Kerry and Dublin possibly, and starting to like Armagh, but and I don't like saying this, but I wouldn't put myself out of the way to watch a football match at the moment. Yeah. I struggle a lot with it. Yeah.
A lot of people, football-wise, most of the games, exactly like you say, there are certain teams and certain matches, and from quarterfinals on, they'll watch.
Yeah.
But they'd rather watch hurling at this time of the year, like.
Yeah. No, hurling has an awful lot more to offer. It has its frailties, there's no doubt about it. But as an entertainment for like, you know, you're 70 minutes, you're involved. If you're putting a whole day into going to a football match. Like if you have to get up, if Kerry has to get up in the morning and drive to Dublin to watch a football match in Croke Park, you got to entertain them. Yeah, you can't go up and put 15 men behind the ball all the time, and you can't travel that distance and not even you can't get hotel rooms. Everything's a big thing, and you go up and there's 4 million hand passes and 2 foot passes. You know, there's no challenge man to man. There's nobody. He played well because he destroyed the man he was marking, because they don't mark people. Whilst it may be really attractive to young people because they're used to nothing else, we're just an old generation. Nobody cares about what we think, so it doesn't really make any difference, you know. So I haven't moved on to the new era of football, to be really honest with you, which is a bit sad maybe for my part, but it doesn't appeal to me. Unless I see the big games against Kerry and Dublin, and I see a few, you know, you see Donegal making a shape here and there, and you see Armagh, they're big boys. You get a feeling of a bit of a football match there, a bit of a big hit, a bit, you know. And so the odd game really brings out a lovely game, but in general, doesn't entertain me too much now.
Do you see it coming down between the two big boys again, the Dublin and Kerry?
And I have to see Kerry and this weekend to decide whether it's just Dublin.
Yeah.
I don't know what Kerry are doing at the moment. They could be doing the classic. I remember in the 80s the 2 matches, they did a Munster final and they did an All Ireland, and they played 2 matches a year and they won 6 or 7 All Irelands over it, or 8 or whatever it was. Jack will remind me today the number. I ignored him completely. So I don't know whether Jack O'Connor is doing the same. I want to pick him. I think he's really that clever that he can do that. So let's see what happens. But the jury's out yet. Yeah. It's Dublin's to lose at the moment. Yeah.
I reckon so, yeah, because I don't think Kerry have been tested anyway. Can I bring you right back, David? And I purposely I don't do Oberweiler or homework. I'd go off see, when I grew up, obviously Kerry were our heroes and the Kerry team of the 70s and 80s, but I didn't grow up during that. I was only watching tapes and all that. So the first two teams that I really, when I was talking to Niall Cahalan last week, the first two teams I really followed and admired and was bouncing ball off the wall outside was Meath and Cork, right? But if I go back further, was it always football from the get-go for you, or was it rugby?
No, it was so rugby. You see, environment really tends to shape your sporting career to a certain extent. Now, I was, like, from the age of 8, I was a long jumper. I was a 100-meter sprinter. I was a middle distance runner. Athletics was massive for me, and I played basketball, and I played rugby, and I played Gaelic, and I played soccer. Like, if it had to be done, I was doing it. I just every sport I could possibly do. But rugby was 100 yards down the road from my house was the rugby pitch. So when we went out playing during the summer, we were playing down the rugby, and my mum, God rest her, we were there from 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you get the shout, "Come home for your lunch," and we'd hear 100 yards away, 200 yards away, back up, bite to eat, back down. So I was reared in rugby.
Okay, right.
In saying that, in school I played football from a young age, and I had great mentors. A guy called Mickey Downs was a teacher of mine in Scoilwire. So, and I do remember the Meath team arriving into Scoilwire after winning the National League in 1975, and Joe Castles was there, Mick. And I ended up playing with these guys and won championships at club level and won All-Irelands with Joe Castles. Now, I was only 8 at the time, and Joe was coming in with his, so it was moon, So my teacher in Scoilwire at primary level, I ended up playing with him with Navan O'Mahony's. Joe Castles came in. Colin O'Rourke was my teacher in St. Pat's, and I ended up playing football with him. Now, I wouldn't play football with him in St. Pat's, so there was a lot of conflict at the time. Rugby was really important to me, but I did play Gaelic football, contrary to a lot of people didn't think I played it growing up, but rugby was the game. And a great guy called, there's a few guys brought me on. Jackie Farley from Navan O'Mahony's would have really tried to get me into Navan O'Mahony's, and I was reluctant, but he always picked me up on the side of the road. I'd be coming home from rugby training with my bag and says, "Come on, we'll go. We've a match." I go. And then a guy called Seamus Clinch, who captained the Meath in 1957 minor All-Ireland final. He was our selector at Navan O'Mahony's, and he rings Sean. He says, "Here, you have to have a look at this fella. Have a look at this fella." And the first season I played for Navan O'Mahony's, I played midfield and won a county championship with Joe Castles in midfield. I was 17, 18, just turning 18. And within 15 months, I had a Leinster medal, and Kerry bet us in 1986 in the All-Ireland semi-final, which it was sent to me on YouTube yesterday, the clip on the Kerry match, the Meath match. And Tomás, you have to have a look at it, because they talked about football in those days as being a bit kind of agricultural, right? Yeah. Have a look at that match. You want to see some of the scores and some of the plays from the likes of Jacko and Colin O'Rourke and Pat Spillane, and like Mar scored a goal in a couple of times. He was brilliant when he came on. It was much better than people kind of knocked football from the old days. Oh, it wasn't that good now. But it was
top notch. But that Meath team had unbelievable forwards.
Yeah.
Stafford was class, absolute class. Bernard Flynn was absolute class. O'Rourke, Jesus, big men, physical men. Can I say, was there any hassle? Like, could you have gone further with the rugby if you wanted to?
I'd like to think I could. So I made a very conscious decision. I myself all prepared to go up to Dublin and play rugby when I was about 18. That was what I was going to do. I was brought into the Meath team and got a Leinster medal very, very quickly. And I decided I'm going to give this a go. I want to. Now, the only reason I said is, now, it wasn't my love of Gaelic football, but my love of winning was much more important. Because sport is winning, and to me. So, and my mind was, I'll do this because I want to win in All-Ireland, not because I want to play with Meath. Because I had never seen Meath play. The first time I played with Meath was the first time I seen Meath play football.
Jesus, that's crazy.
I never went to a match. So, And it was really funny because I was on a motorbike at the time, and the first week I got a phone call and said, would you come to a Meath match? Go up to Navan O'Mahony's. And myself and Paul Mallon, who was playing with me at the time with club football, we went up and we were to be picked up to be brought to a challenge match. And we stood there for an hour, nobody picks up, and an hour and a half, never got picked up. So I went home. A phone call, we forgot to get you. Will you come back? Now, I got the phone call to come back, but Paul Mallon didn't. It was really strange, right? So anyway, my first match was against Waterstown. I arrived up on my motorbike and I came in and I took off my helmet, and all I heard from Colin Rock is, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Right? So this is my introduction, It was like,
that was from school, he remembers you.
Oh, he remembered me well, because the only thing he used to, I thought my name was "Get out of here," because he would come into class and say, you leave. So I wouldn't even have to get in trouble, but he used to throw me out because he just knew I was going to cause hassle anyway. So he hated me. We're very good friends now, so it's no problem. But I can say at the time, he genuinely hated me, and the feeling was mutual, so there's no issue. So when he seen me, he says, "Oh, fuck, what the fuck?" Anyway, so we played against. I think it was Monaghan. It was an opening of a pitch. And 2 weeks after that, I started against Cardiff and scored a goal and 2 points. And it was literally from, I played against Monaghan 2 weeks later, my first championship match, 6 weeks later, a Leinster medal. And 2 weeks after that, I played against the greatest Kerry team of all time. It was just nuts. Like, it was really nuts.
Somebody told me, we had a lad playing, he was an outstanding footballer, William Kirby, midfield for Kerry, and he was a fierce, good crack off the pitch, but he was a great lad on the field. And somebody said to me before, actually, and about yourself, that Kirby was playing midfield with Dara, and they were playing Dublin, and Kieran Whelan was the main midfielder in the country for a good few years, and Dara was walking out onto the pitch with Kirby, and he says, "Look, I'll take Whelan, you take the other fella." And Kirby turns to him and says, "Which fella is Whelan?" And he just didn't know. What was that? Was that something similar to you?
Well, unfortunately it was, yeah. And it happened very much in the first game against Dublin, when Brian Mullins, God rest him, came in after the match to congratulate us and have a chat with us. And I turned around to Joe Cass and said, "Who's he?" And Joe said, "What? Who's he?" It's Brian Mullins. Yeah. So
it was Ryan Mullins.
I didn't know, but I didn't know even the Meath players I played with. Like, really, because I knew Colin Rourke because he taught me in school. Do you know, that kind of way? But the Mick Lyons didn't really mean much to me. It was just, it wasn't my thing. It just wasn't my thing. Now, I love playing the game and everything else, but I was very much I was very much a rugby player. I really was at the time. And Liam Hayes, in his book, he wrote it, and he called me, he's called my whole family, we came from the wrong side of the tracks, which my mother really got very upset about, But, and he was right. When I look back at it, he was right. We were different people, and we weren't from GAA stock. My dad got banned in the 60s, and he never really recovered from it. So my dad was a good soccer player, good rugby player, and he played in goals for Gaelic, and he was caught out, and he was banned. So that's why Gaelic disappeared from our house, and it disappeared from our house. But I remember as a young boy, on a Sunday, we'd go to mass, we'd come home, and Dad would disappear, and I'd wonder where he was, and I'd go out into the front driveway, and he'd be in the car listening to the Sunday game, and he had his little passion, but he never shared it. It's because of what happened.
Okay, right. So he still enjoyed it.
Yeah. So it was Gaelic wasn't mentioned in our house. Although my brother Paul played 14s, minors, 16s. He was a great footballer, but he ended up being a rugby player, great out half for Navan. But Gaelic was it just wasn't part of her life growing up because of what happened. And when I came, and he was so proud of me, he really was, and he only died last year, like he was 88, 90 nearly. He was a great man. But
he enjoyed all the big days. So
Oh, he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and he would just he was a very quiet man, but he used to find it really amazing that there'd be guys supporting Meath and Beggy, you're fucking useless, get off, you're fucking and he was sitting there and he'd just hold his. He could always hold his. He was a very cool guy who could hold his peace. He was able to cope with it, but he found it strange,
But that had to be, sounds very like my old fella, had to be, you probably didn't realise it at the time, but he probably didn't pressure you or way where parents would be burdening their children with pressure, like.
Not at all. Well, you didn't need to pressure me anyway. I wanted everything in sport. I had the long jump record under 10s in Ireland. I could do the 800 meters in nearly 2 minutes when I was 14. I could do the 100 meters in 110, 10, 8 or 9. I wanted to be the best. Literally everything I did. And if I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't do it. I didn't try hard. If I wasn't really good at something, I'm not doing that. I want to be the best at everything I did.
If you didn't have the success as early as you did with Meath, would you have stuck it out?
No. I have no question about that in my mind. I have no question, because I was giving up. I felt a career in rugby. I wanted to play for Ireland. I didn't dream of winning All Irelands. I dreamt of putting on a green jersey, and that was taken off me by Sean. But he replaced it with an All Ireland medal. I change it now? Not for 1 second.
Yeah.
But at the time, you can't help your dreams. Your dreams are your dreams. And when I say I literally dreamed about it, I dreamed about it. Now, when I moved to Scotland, I ended up playing a lot of rugby, and I got to play with Leinster, and I got to play with the Irish Wolfhounds, and I got to train with the Irish team. I nearly got there.
Jesus.
When was this? I was 24 years old or so. Well, I lived in Scotland from 89. Navan's a great town, but when in 1988, 89, I couldn't lift a 7-up, but Sean Boylan got a phone call saying he's drinking vodka. Now, I never drank vodka in my fucking life, but he was getting. Now, Sean was good, but it was like a bubble, like it was just, and it was a grey, dirty, shitty hole, right? And so I'm never living here. And a fella offered me a job in Scotland, and I went and I took off. And I remember flying out of the airport, and Mayo were in the All Ireland final in 1989, and they were playing Cork.
Yeah.
And Cork won.
Yeah.
I get this. It was the one poor old Mayo, but we'll talk about that again. But I remember flying out of the airport saying, "I'm not coming back here." I ended up flying over and back every week for Meath. I used to play rugby on a Saturday in Scotland, fly over and play football, and that was top. I was playing against, Scotland had just won the Grand Slam, so I was playing against the top boys in Scotland.
In the league over there, the club league, like.
Yeah, it was the Division 1 league. So I'd fly out. I'd play rugby on a Saturday. I'd fly into Ireland on a Saturday evening to get to Mickey Marmin's for 2 pints on a Saturday night. I'd play football for Meath on a Sunday. On Sunday night, I go to the local disco. I go to bed at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Mocky Regan or his brother would pick me up at about 6. I'd fly to Glasgow, and I used to have to drive from Glasgow to Perth, where I was working, and then at the end of the day, drive from Perth back to Edinburgh, where I was living. And it was mental, but it was great fun.
And you were doing that for how long? You were doing that for
I'd done that 2 or 3 years, yeah. Now, I stopped playing league football eventually, and then I stopped getting picked because I wasn't playing league football. But it was hectic, but it was fantastic. I had one great year. 91 was a great year for me because we had the 4 in a row, and we nearly bet down, and down the better team won, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But that particular year, I played rugby with Leinster that year. I went to Hong Kong. I remember going to Hong Kong playing rugby 7s. Fantastic experience. I got in the Irish Wolfhounds team. I flew back. I was living in Scotland. The next day, I got a phone call from Brendan Mullins. We're having a rugby match against a French team and an Irish team in Bermuda. Would you like to come to Bermuda? Yeah. Now, I had only been in a plane once or twice at this stage of my life, and I was flying around the world. And then I went to Dubai the same year. It was just absolute, and the fun was great. Yeah.
Your man, to be fair, Sean Boylan must have had some magic to be able to, if you left for Scotland and he having you back again, he had to have the Midas touch, didn't he? I don't know him obviously as well as yourself, but I've met him a good few times. But he comes across as an absolute gentleman, but there had to be a streak.
There's a lot more to Sean than being a gentleman. I think it's people love to say, "Oh, he's a lovely fella." Sean can be an arsehole if he wants to. He's a great guy for that, and he does it so subtly and so well, and when a lad's giving you a compliment, but he's not, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. I remember we were over. We were the first team to train on an All-Star tour. So we went over as All Ireland's champions. I was an All-Star at the time as well. It was 1988, and we were training in Boston and San Francisco because we'd drawn against Dublin in the league final, and we'd replay the next day. It was my first time, I think, out of the country. I was in America. I had $2,000 in my pocket.
You didn't get homesick?
I didn't get home because I got into America. I loved America, so it was going great. So I remember I went to the pub in Boston one day, Limericks, and there was a guitar in the corner. So I played the guitar and the piano. So I started playing the guitar about 2:00. I must have played for 6 hours, 7 hours, and I was locked. And the guy walked in. He goes, "Jeez," he says, "I'm double booked tonight. I'm booked down the pub down the road. Would you do a gig for me? I'll give you $200 for it." "Yeah, I'll do that gig." So I went down, all the gear, and done the gig. There was a load of people at it, and I was there by myself and played. And who walked in the back was Sean Boylan and Kieran Duff. And they're like this. And you could see Duff talking to Sean. I found out after Duff was going, "Sean, how are you going to sort that fella out?" Because this
was a lot. You were on kind of a holiday. You were treating it as a kind of a holiday, like.
Well, yeah. Well, I treat everything as a holiday, but certainly I thought this was a bit of fun. So anyway, I remember we went to San Francisco. Had another great time there. But on the way back over, we were fairly shook on the way home, and there was turbulence, and I didn't know what turbulence was. So I was very badly hungover. There was turbulence. I was edgy. There was a bit of that going on. Sean sits beside me. "How are you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. How are you?" He says, "Do you think that you'd ever play in front of a big crowd again?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. We've the match against Dublin next week." And he says, "No, I'm not talking about football." He says, "You're finishing football." I said, I'm talking about music." I said, "You should just become a pop star and fucking give up the fucking football because you can't behave like this, right?" And left me. So there's a 5-hour flight ahead of me, and I'm saying, "That's me fucking finished, gone," right? So I'm only 21, I think, at the time. Something. I said, I'm finished. And he didn't pick me, and Brendan Riley played in the replay and scored a great goal, actually. And this was a bit of a fucking disaster, right? So I said, "What are we going to do with this?" So we Louth in the first match of the championship, and I must have impressed a little bit in training and stuff like that. I started the Louth match and scored a goal and a couple of points. Got the man of the match. Christ, I got back in his good books, but that's what he does. He just says something, you're in trouble. And he does it so nicely, it's horrible. And everybody thinks he's such a lovely guy, He's a very, very good friend of mine, so I can talk. I love him to bits, and he's still my mentor. He's. It's funny. I was with Niall Quinn today, and we were talking about, when if your dad is not around, there's people really count, and some coaches really count in your life, and some coaches you go through a wall for, and some coaches you go. And Sean, you go through a wall for. You'd love to be still able to go through a wall for. That kind of way. He's just that kind of guy, But
can I ask
careers are funny, yeah.
Can I ask you about the because I remember it myself when I was a young fella watching it, was the 4 matches, and what are when you look back at it now, what you think about it? The 4 matches against Dublin that summer.
There's so much happened in them 4 matches. It's quite incredible. The outstanding moment for me is when Eamon Heary and Keith Barr took out Palmer.
Hard men, weren't they?
No, I marked Eamon Heary constantly, or he marked me. I don't know what way it worked out, but I found him a phenomenal footballer, and it was hard as nails. But I never found him dirty, ever. I tell you, he hit you really hard, but I never felt he was dirty. I found he was a phenomenal athlete. Yeah. And I chased him more than he chased me. He was kind of just about the modern halfback starting up, kind of, but he could mark as well. Yeah. But anyway, PJ Gillick gave a lovely hospital ball. The lovely hospital pass that no choice, and just got, Jesus Christ. Well, the two boys, fuck it. I mean, they just milled him. And you have to watch it on YouTube to see how hard they hit him.
I remember it. Yeah.
So I run over and I go, come in, lads, bring on I don't know what to do, big fucking basket or something. But he gets carried off. And I always reminds me of James Brown being taken off the stage. He's dragging out. But the famous line, so our doctor, and I don't want his name because everybody knows about him, and he's down and O'Rourke's out cold.
Yeah.
Sean's warming up somebody in the sideline, and he's getting it going and he's getting the paper right. And HIAs these days, you go in and you have to do fingers up. So the HIA it came from the doctor. Hold on, Sean, I think he's coming around. Right? So he's back. And he came on the pitch, he did a phenomenal game when he came back on, right?
Oh,
it was just, that was huge to me, right? So a lot of them games are bad. There were very dour games because of what was at stake. And like Dublin should have won All Irelands there, but we were in their way, if you know what I mean. And Kerry had done that to Cork numerous times as well. And but the winning the game was I scored the winning point, but I didn't know it was the winning point. It was just a point. You win the point, but the game's over. And I would always felt that the point you scored at the start of the match is just as important as the point you scored at the end of the match. I never had a big thing about something like that because we're a team and you step up and you do what you do. But we went to Scotland the week before because I was living in Scotland, and that was the other thing. I was flying over and back, sometimes twice a week to train. And Sean said to me, tell you what we're going to do, Davy. We've drawn the third match. He said, you've been coming over and back. He said, we'll come over to Scotland and train because there was a week break, And I said, that's great, Sean. I said, so he said, we're coming over to you, myself and Noel Keaton. God rest him, Noel Keaton. I have a great story about Noel. But anyway, Noel, who is the head book cat for Keypack, great Clare man.
Yeah.
Noel arrived over with Sean. I picked them up and a little Ford Escort, and we were going to Glen Eagles. He wanted to suss it out to see is that where, because Noel was bringing everybody over charter plane and a weekend away. So I took into the car and I took off, and I didn't drive at the time below 140 mile an hour. I was all motorway, and Noel was a very uneasy driver. He was great in helicopters and all that kind of stuff, but he didn't like the cars, and he was never in a small car in his life. It was all big Mercedes. And you could see his knuckles getting whiter and whiter when he stopped talking. And Sean's trying to keep things going. And Sean loved this bit of speed as well. I was going mental there. So we got to a place called Drimond. Let's pull in here, lads. Let's pull in here for a minute. That's the way to talk, So there was a hotel in this place called Drimond, and we went in for tea and scones. And within 20 minutes, Noel didn't want to go in. You knew he didn't. I think we'll stay here, lads. We'll book here. He took the whole hotel out because he didn't want to travel up to Glen Eagles. There's another 40 or 50 miles to go, and the poor lad was shitting himself. So all the boys came over, and the wives, everybody came over, and we went in the beer for the weekend, which is just hard to believe in this day and age.
Yeah.
But we did.
A week out from the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, between the third match and the fourth match. And bear in mind, it was a preliminary, first round of a championship.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a final. So,
but it did you no harm, Dave? There was so much pressure, there was so much build-up out of Ireland, nobody looking at you, having a bit of crack, and you enjoyed it.
It was ingenious. Yeah. And again, I was listening to Niall Quinn today, and he's talking about some of the managers, his greatest managers, had that ability to think outside the box. But now we got up the next morning and we trained for 2 hours. And if you didn't perform that training, 2 or 3 lads were let go after it. Because if you play hard, all you want. But if you play hard, you play hard as well on the football pitch. And that was Sean. There was no excuses. When you put on your boots, there was no excuses. You couldn't. If you played, you could be injured. There's still no excuses.
Yeah.
If you're out there, there's no excuses. So that was it. And it worked. It was dodgy, but it worked. And we drew against Wicklow the week after. We had another draw the week after. So we weren't in the semi-final of Leinster. We'd played 6 matches.
Phenomenal.
And in those days where there's just knockout, it was quite incredible, you know.
Jesus, like it was. I know Down, and that was a very good Down team, and was a start.
Outstanding, and they proved it by winning it again in '94.
Yeah, the dominance of the teams from the north. But before that, you had a fierce battle and a fierce rivalry. And I know it's all good now, and it's all the relationships are very, very good. And but Meath and Cork was fierce for 4 or 5 years, wasn't it?
It was horrible. Yeah. It was really strange. It was strange how the animosity built up. I thought it was built up a lot more by the media, and it didn't help that Liam Hayes was a journalist at the time, and Dave Allen, I think, done a lot of stuff in media-wise. Dave Allen or Dave Barry?
Dave Barry, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't help because of there was a few clashes there, but it came from nowhere. The rivalry came from nowhere. We'd bet Cork in '87 in the All-Ireland. In '88, the first match they came out, they hammered us. Physically, they bet the shit out of us. We were getting terrible press at the time for being a dirty team, which we were, but we were more. It was more that we were better at it than anybody, because everybody was. It was a tough game. It was a really tough, but we would just happen to be better. And I say we, the guys I played with, because I wasn't dirty. I was evasive, and I was, I wasn't that. Wouldn't be able to be, But we did a tough scenario. But I remember. We played against Mayo in the semi-final, and I ran into Liam McHale, and I got my fist was here, and he hit me with his shoulder. I felt a bit strange, but I played on, and Sean took me off, and I was really thick. So I was out that night on the beer, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. There's something really strange here. I can't breathe, So subsequently, I spent a week in the hospital with a broken sternum.
Oh, Jesus.
So I remember getting acupuncture and this, that, and I played in the All-Ireland final 2 weeks after a broken sternum. Maybe it might have been 3, but anyway, you played in it. And we drew. We got hammered. Now we got the shite out of us, but we drew. But I remember going into the hotel afterwards, and we're hanging around. I go to the loo and I'm doing my job. And who comes in beside me? Only Jerry McEntee. And he finishes. And he turns around and he says, "Jinxie, that'll never happen to us again." And he hit me straight. Now, when I say hit me, he milled me, right? And I went, "You're right, Jerry." And Jerry walked out the door, and I fell in a hoop in the corner, crying. It was fucking agony. So, back in the hospital, get it sorted out, whatever it is, and played the replay. But the replay, we wreaked revenge, basically. It was Cork caught us. They ambushed us because they didn't play like that before that. Okay, but they knew how to have to. Billy Morgan, a man I admire hugely, told the guys from Cork, if you want to beat Meath, you have to play like Meath. And that's what they did. And they bet us fair and square. And they eventually knew how to beat us, that kind of way. So they got there in the end, and deservedly so. And they were an amazing team because they lost 2 All-Irelands in a row. And they went back and they won 2 All-Irelands straight away. It was to me, it's one of the greatest team achievements around, they didn't accept it. They went on and do it. And some teams like to be habitual losers, and we get to the finals and you're great and a clap in the back. These guys, no, they were bigger than that. And I really admire Cork for how they finished up. But the animosity was horrendous. Yeah, it was immense. It was really bad. Yeah.
When you look at your team, like you had the Silk, and I'm not saying that they weren't tough enough, they were, but they were skillful players, the likes of Liam Hayes, the likes of yourself, the likes of Bernard, the likes of Stafford, the likes of Boylan. Yeah. And then you had the Harnans and the Mick Lyons and the Colm Kyles and the Martin O'Connells and McEntee at midfield. The balance was perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a number of reasons, and it's one of the problems I think with football at the moment. These guys were just getting bet by Dublin in the late 70s, early 80s by a point or two. Dublin were winning All-Irelands. Yeah. These boys were young lads. They were still having the fun and the crack. But they had matured and grew into footballers who wanted to achieve something in their late 20s and early 30s. And us group of young nut jobs came in. So you had mad young fellas and mature old fellas. And the balance was amazing. And it when you think about it an awful lot, they won nothing without us, and we would have won nothing without them. It was just the perfect balance, without a doubt. Yeah.
I was I always love and we were lucky enough. I think we were coming towards. I'm not saying that they don't have a balance now, David, but they wouldn't be carrying a Kerry team or a Dublin team off to Scotland in the middle of the championship.
No.
But the off season, in terms of the crack and the banter and the All-Star trips, and you have a few All-Stars. I heard you have a great story about Joe Cooney out in was it Toronto on an All-Star trip.
Oh, I don't know about that. You're talking to Flynn, you see, so you want to be very, very careful what he'd be saying. So I would be. There was a couple of. I have to think about it. Yeah. It's funny. One of the nicest stories.
He told me another one. Actually, he said,
"Don't believe the word that man says." I'm
I
telling
know,
you.
yeah, but I want it to be true, David. I wanted it to be true. He told me that you played against Clare in a league game, or that both of you were supposedly, or you probably were actually injured. And the story goes that Boylan lost the rag and demanded that both of you played. Ye, in the meantime, didn't think that you were playing, had a few pints, and played a game after 4 or 5 pints.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, but what happened was, right, so again, we're living in Scotland and we went down to Clare and Noel organised us, and we're coming in by planes and helicopters. We were like the rock stars. It was just class, right? So anyway, we're playing Clare, the opening of Kilrush. The night before, we go to a place called Taylor's. It was a big bar of the country, and we got mentally drunk. It was a massive session, right? And that was fair enough. That was fine because it was an open pitch. And we got up the next morning. I met Flynn down in Buggles Bar down in the middle of Kilrush. And after about 3 pints, we're starting to feel all right. And I said, Jesus, God, the boys have to play today. I don't know how they're going to play. Sean walked in the front door of the pub, walked up and says, "You two, you're playing today, and you better fucking play well." And walked out the door. And we're half cut already. Flynn didn't bring his boots because he was injured, and he had to go up and down the bar looking to borrow a pair of boots. And we had to walk out the road. The pitch is about a half a mile or a mile out the road. We walk out the road. I hid my gear in the hotel and went out. And both of us scored a goal in 2 pints, I think, and Sean couldn't say a word to us. So that is a true story. But one of the nicest stories I have about sport, I was playing rugby in Sicily with the Irish Wolfhounds, and it was the trips you got. The rugby was phenomenal. We were traveling the world and we were playing the best of teams, top end French teams and All Blacks. But anyway, so we go back to the hotel after the tournament, and we're having a bit of crack and a bit of fun, and there's a lot of teams around, and there's a piano in the lobby, and somebody says, "James, you play the piano?" "Yeah." "No, I don't. I bang a piano. I play the guitar. I bang a piano." "No, when I say I bang it. But anyway, we sit around and we start, and I think I started off with I don't like Mondays or something like that. And there's an actress in the place, and she's hanging around with the English team, but she's bored out of her head. Sinead Cusack was her name. She was a very famous actress back. Yeah. So she comes over and joins us. So we start, and we do that, and we do Crocodile Rock, and we're having a great time. Great session. Everybody comes around. And the manager comes up, and I don't speak my worst Italian accent. "You must stop playing music. Residents asleep." I said, yeah, no problem. And we're at it again. So we're going through all the rock and roll lists again. And he comes back. No piano. Must finish. Finish now. Yeah. Then so we're at this. And in the meantime, this guy comes over to me and he introduces himself to me. And he's the local Italian rugby player star. I can't remember his name, but he was the first Italian barbarian rugby player. He says, I play piano. I would like to show you. I said, "Of course, come down and play piano." And he's a virtuoso, and he's playing Chopin. He's beautiful. And about 2 minutes into it, the door opens at the hotel, and the cops come in and grab him, handcuff him, arrest him, locks him up for the night. He didn't play 2 minutes of a song, and it was me. We laughed and laughed and laughed. He came out the next morning. He says, "I arrested. I am in hospital. I was in prison all night. I only played 1 minute of a song." So there were some of the stuff. There was some great stuff went on now, but in Gaelic football, it's funny actually. If our team, the senior lads are so important because they had done all kind of the crack and everything else, and they were really focused because they knew their time was coming to an end. So there was a bit of a kind of a young people, myself and Bernard and a few others. We liked a bit of crack. Yeah. They all liked the crack, but it was a different type of crack. You know, I remember one time we're in a pub and we're having a few drinks, and Colin goes to me. It was his round or something, and he handed me 50 quid. Go up and get a drink for the lads. No, I'm looking at him. Huh? Just get a drink for the lads. I said, okay, yeah. Now 50 quid was a good wedge at that stage. In those days, I bought the whole pub a drink, and I came back with 2 quid or something changed, and said, "There you go. Don't ever ask me to buy you a drink. It's your fucking round. You go up and get your own drink." But we grateful. We did. We had really good fun. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I'm enjoying this in association with EIRGRID, chatting with David Beggy. David, can I say when you look back and you played the best of teams around the country, you're with Jacko today. I'd say the friends you've made along the way, you wouldn't change anything, like in terms of the chances you had, the opportunities you had of going down the rugby. You wouldn't change anything the way it happened.
No, and that's what I said. When my head got turned, and it did get turned. Like you said, you turn me. I go play. I want to win All Irelands. I don't want to wear a green jersey and go around and say, "Look at me, I'm a Meath footballer," or you know. And I think it's pretty similar for Kerry people. There's no point wearing a Kerry jersey if you don't have an All Ireland. Is there really? Yeah, you know. Yeah. And I think we need to get back to that in Meath. There's no point wearing a Meath jersey unless you're winning. Right, and it's to me, it's all about winning. Would I change? I wouldn't change an iota. No, and I got into terrible trouble. I really did, but I wouldn't change a thing. No. It was so joyous, and it was very tough. By the way, it wasn't easy. Yeah. It really wasn't easy. Like it's hard to, you know yourself. It's hard to win.
Yeah,
it's not a natural thing. You really have to put yourself way outside what you're able for, or there's no comfort zone. To win, you have to really go through the pain. Yeah,
but it was different. Obviously, every year you talked, you realistically knew you were going to have a crack.
Yeah, for 6, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years we were in the zone. Yeah, that we were thereabouts, and the recovery that. It's funny, in 91, it was 91, our team was broken. Everybody was broken. All the old lads were knackered. Their hips were gone, their knees were gone. They had loads of issues. So much so that Sean made us train in a swimming pool as our pre-season training. So now this is unheard. Nowadays, everybody knows to train in low resistance is really good for recovery and stuff like that. But we went over to Gormanstown 2 or 3 nights a week to train in a swimming pool. Now, this is how far Sean was ahead of the rest.
He understood the situation, like.
Yeah, he knew what the body could take. And what was achieved that year was incredible with the guys that were all so badly broken up. Now, we fell apart very badly in 92, but it had to happen. It was a bit like the Beatles breakup. It was very sudden and very quick, but it really fell apart. And Sean got it back on track then within 3-4 years. You know, it's rather incredible. Yeah,
he came with another team, like, and it was phenomenal, wasn't it? That was probably a team inspired by your gang, was it? Younger lads coming.
There's no doubt about it. It was, I'm sure they could see if they can do it, we can do it. But you had a crop of lads coming up: Trevor Giles, Graham Garvey, Darren Fay. Like I mean, like people under. That team that won in 96 against Mayo, the full backline was under 21s. Actually, more. Nearly the whole backline was under 21s outside Martin O'Connell. Do you know, it was mental how young these boys were. It was crazy, and I think that's the greatest win Sean Boylan had. Was that team that of Gossans. Now he kept Martin O'Connell and he kept Colin Coyle around, and Brendan Riley and Tommy Dowd. You know, there was a few mixes there, and John McDermott, what a legend. So there was a few mixes there, but it was an amazing win. Now, it's very controversial, terribly controversial. I heard some terrible things on the radio. I remember RT doing a documentary and saying this, what's his name, the referee, Banty's brother. McEnany. He said he sent off some guy said from Mayo and was terrible. There was a big row and everything else. And if you look at the video, you'll find out who started the row, but that's another story. But he said they sent off the best Mayo footballer and the worst Meath footballer. Now, Colin Coyle to be called the worst Meath. To me now, RT should never have ever allowed that being put out in public, because Colin Coyle was one of the most gifted footballers out there. He was a tough dog. Now, he was a dog.
Yeah.
But to be allowed that, and it really kind of upset me a little bit.
And he's a gentleman, like, isn't he?
Huh?
He is a gentleman. I've met him a few times. He's a lovely fella.
Oh, he's cracking. And I marked him in football, and we used to kick the shit out of each other, but that was football. Yeah. But he could play football, and he nearly played in every position in the Meath team. He was that versatile. He actually did play in every position in the Meath team over the years. Yeah. And I thought it was a terrible thing for a national broadcaster to allow to be said that it was our best footballer and their worst footballer. That was bad. But anyway, I've got over, don't I?
The backs and forwards are the training sessions. Before we finish up, the sessions you had. Jesus Christ, I wouldn't like to be going through Liam Harnan and Mick Lyons or Martin O'Connell or those.
It's an amazing story. I remember we had a match. It was before Leinster final. Yeah, so we played. I was injured. We missed Offaly. I think it was Offaly in the semi-final. Myself and Joe Castles were injured coming into the Leinster final. I think I'd hammer or something like that on Joe. And Sean was in a real conundrum. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know, because the boys, the team that had got to the Leinster final, Sean didn't change the winning team, right? It was that's the way it was. But we were on the team before we were injured, and saying, so what did Sean decide to do the night before the match? This is in 1989, that's right. He called myself and Joe over. He said, how you feeling, lads? Yeah, good. He's ready for tomorrow to play. Yeah, okay. Right, we'll have to do a little bit of a test. I said, yeah, grand. And he called over Mickey McQuillan in goals. He called Mick Lyons. He called Pádraig Lyons. And he called Liam Harnan, right? And he put myself and Joe out in the pitch. Go with them, lads. Play football. And it was, the 3 goals in your in thing. So we had to run past right? So that's the 5 of us the night before Leinster final, right? And for a half an hour, we flayed each other to bits. The boys milled us. Nobody was giving up. Nobody's giving ground. We scored a goal here and a goal there and a few points, but we had to go for a goal really and all that. Now, the boys loved it. The harm making the 2 boys. The Pádraig, they loved it because it was just, this is their, and Joe and myself just wouldn't give up. So much so they had to pick us. But we lost against Dublin the next day. Do you remember wrecked? We'd have played the best game of football of our lives the night before against the 3 hardest men in Ireland, So but our matches before championships were phenomenal. Again, we drew against Cork and we went up to Ballymascannon between the replays from the first and the second in 88, out in the beer for a while. There's a couple of great stories there. I can't tell you about them. And the next day we went down to the local football pitch and we played football for an hour and a half. And by the end of the match, there was more lads on the sideline than the pitch. It was that attritional. And there was locals looking at saying, what's good, lads, you've an All-Ireland final next week. It was mental. And
different times.
Huh? Yeah.
Different times.
It's just different times, and that's just the way it was. Would it be a good idea this year? I think sometimes it would be. I see teams training and nobody's allowed any contact at all because can't. We have to look after our players. I would like it to get a little bit. And I'm not into dirt. I should be honest with you. I don't like dirty football. I have a couple of really bad injuries through real dirty football. I have a very bad neck and stuff like that. I got a kick in a football match and it was way outside the rules. So I don't like dirt. But I got hammered and hit very hard. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me.
Hard and fair. Listen, David, I really, really enjoyed the chat. I some night I'll meet you with that guitar or the piano, and we'll have a bit of a
no problem. It's no problem.
I hope everybody else enjoyed the show, and of course, thank you to EIRGRID. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. EIRGRID is responsible for a safe, secure, and reliable supply of electricity, and is leading the transition to a low-carbon electricity future by making Ireland renewal ready. David, Garamila Mahagat, and we will chat soon. It was great chatting to you, and all the best for the future.
Thanks very, very much, Mas. Great to talk to you.
Míle buíochas d'EIRGRID.
The lads will just download that, David.
Is EIRGRID Co-40 ifigúil on Cumann Lucas Gael I le Chiamad Ama.